What if I told you that I gave up the Singaporean dream? Hi, my name is Olivia and I'm a 28-year-old Singaporean currently living in the city of Gold Coast in Australia. I was born and raised in Singapore and have lived in Singapore my whole life. So after 27 years, I finally decided that was enough. So this is my story of why I gave up the Singaporean dream. If you, like me, were born and raised in Singapore, you would probably be quite familiar with what we call the 5 C's. So the 5 C's stands for cash, car, condominium, credit card, and club. Now I know it's not really widely spoken about these days amongst people of my generation, but one way or another, the 5 C's find their way to permeate into our society and shape the way we think and behave in Singapore as Singaporeans. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? The 5 C's are a goal that all Singaporeans strive to achieve, and it starts from a really, really young age. You enroll into primary school and you do your primary school leaving examinations in hopes that you will do well enough to go to a better secondary school. So by the time you are 18 years old, most people would have taken at least 3 national exams, all in the hopes that you would eventually land yourself in a good course in a local university. So from the ages of 7 all the way up to you're 18, your life is pretty much already planned out for you. Say you do well enough at your A-levels and you make it to a good university, right? NUS, NTU, SMU, and whatever university else is out there. You think that that's it. I'm gonna finish university, I'm gonna study something that I enjoy, and I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna do a job. I'm gonna land myself in a job that I really like, right? But don't forget that while you're in university, you are meant to find your significant other or your life partner because both of you are going to need to apply for a built-to-order flat together, or what we call BTO. So Singapore has this very unique public housing system where only married couples or couples that are engaged are allowed to apply for the flat. You can apply for the flat if you're single, but you have to be at least 35 years old. So what does this mean for outliers? For people like me. Say I'm single and I'm 27, 28, almost 30, and I want to be able to live independently on my own. You will either need to have enough money to rent or enough money to purchase private property, which easily starts at about $1 million. So let's say in university, you get really lucky and you find your significant other. Congratulations. You guys apply for a flat together and hooray, you managed to get in the queue for your apartment. Now, all you need to do is wait 4 to 5 years for the apartment to finish building. And during that 4 to 5 years, you need to pray to God that you guys don't break up. Because if you do, you're not just going to lose your deposit to the house, you will also lose the house that has been allocated to you and your partner, and you'll be back to square one. You have nowhere else to move out to, and you'll be back at home living with your parents. Say things go really well between you and your significant other, and congratulations, you guys are just about to collect the keys to your house. But hang on a second, the next thing that you need to do, or the next milestone you need to achieve, is to make sure that you guys register your marriage before you collect the keys to your house, because otherwise, you'll not be allowed to do so. So, are you guys starting to see the pattern here? From the day that you were born, to when you start school, to when you go to university, when you find a partner, when you get married, every single major life milestone has pretty much been planned out for you. You must be wondering, surely it can't all be that bad. There must be other options that Singaporeans can take. And I guess my answer to that would be yes, but the question to you is, will you be able to give an answer to your parents when they ask you, how come you haven't found a partner yet to apply for a BTO together? Will you be able to answer the judgment that your relatives would give you, during Chinese New Year when they ask you, oh, how come you're in your 20s but you haven't found a partner? Will you also be able to answer the questions that come from your friends when they discuss, say, where their BTO is going to be and when it's going to be ready? You're going to be completely left out. So if your answer to that is yes, then sure, you have other options. So I guess the question that I'm trying to answer, at least in this video today, is the Singaporean dream a scam? Honestly, not gonna lie, I think the Singaporean dream is pretty great. After all, there must be a reason why Singapore is top 5 in terms of richest and safest countries around the world, right? So, something must be working. I mean, we've come a long way since being a fishing village in the 1800s. But if you ask me what I personally really love about the Singaporean dream, is that it encourages hard work from a young age. It inculcates drive into Singaporean citizens everywhere. Because from a young age, we are taught to be competitive, we are taught to strive for the best. And understandably so, because if you know a little bit about Singapore, you'll realize that Singapore has no natural resources. The only resource that we have is our manpower. So in order for Singapore to be able to compete at a global level, we have to make sure that our Singaporean citizens are well equipped to handle global challenges out there. So I think Singapore has done a really good job of doing that because most Singaporean citizens are really highly educated and we are good contributing citizens to society. After all, I too was once chasing the Singaporean dream, following that same Singaporean pathway. I went to decently good schools, did well enough on my exams to land myself in a local university, and at university at 21 managed to find my then significant other. We were dating for about 2.5 years, or maybe about 2 years, before we decided to apply for a built-to-order BTO flat together, which we eventually didn't get. So I would say that at that point in time, things in life were going pretty well for me. I was hitting all the major milestones in life, going to uni, finding a partner, trying to apply for a flat together. So I was relatively happy, but deep down, I was not excited about life. It felt as though I already knew what the next 30, 40, 50 years of my life were going to look like. I was going to be stuck in this flat with my partner, with maybe 1 or 2 children for the rest of my life. And that's it. That was going to be my life story. At the end of the day, I realized that I just didn't like playing my game of life according to someone else's rules. And that was what didn't sit well with me. So yes, to answer the question, is the Singaporean dream a scam? I think absolutely not. I think the Singaporean dream is great. But if you're someone like me who has always been curious about what the rest of the world has to offer, you'll come to realize very quickly that Singapore has very limited options for you if you have no interest in fitting into that Singaporean mold. So at 22, I decided that enough was enough. I came up with a new dream for myself, something that felt a little bit more like me. And what exactly was that dream? I know it's gonna sound a little bit cliche, but in 2019, my mom and I, we went to Western Australia, city of Perth actually, for a family vacation, and it was then that I fell in love with the country of Australia. So at that point in time, I made up my mind that Australia was the place that I wanted to be in or live in. So from there, I started crafting my plan. So in 2019, I started crafting my plan on how to make my move to Australia. I had to research what kind of visas were available, what kind of jobs were in demand in Australia, and which city I wanted to live in. Not gonna lie, the 5 years that I spent planning my move was quite an interesting period of my life because I felt a sense of excitement and a lot of apprehension as well because there was absolutely no guarantee that I was gonna be able to make the move. So even though there was a lot of uncertainty during those 5 years, I finally felt something. I had something to look forward to. Fast forward 5 years, at 27, I finally got the chance to move overseas. And if you're interested to find out more about what kind of visas I researched and which visa I eventually got on, I'll be making a separate video on that, so link will be below. So I guess the question now is, was the 5 years I spent planning this move worth it? And my answer is yes, absolutely. In the 5 years, I had to make quite a few major life decisions, and that included spending thousands of dollars getting my CPA accreditation, consulting a migration lawyer, changing to a completely different industry for work, and breaking up with my then partner of close to 3 years. It wasn't as simple as just packing a suitcase and going, "Bye mom, see you later." But more importantly, it was coming to terms with the fact that I was going to be mostly alone on this journey, understanding what I needed to give up in my current life to make the move happen. And lastly, being brave enough to let go of all those things in order to make the move happen. So, if I had to turn back time, would I do it again? The answer is yes. Because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have picked up all these life lessons that I had learned along the way. I learned to develop laser sharp focus. So during the 5 years, with every single step that I took, I constantly asked myself, is this step going to take me closer to my end goal or further away? If it was going to take me further away, it was immediately deprioritized. And I applied this to all aspects of my life, but more importantly, my careers and my relationships. So in 2019, when I made the decision to plan my move, I was working for a large US MNC in Singapore. I started exploring whether or not they had offices in Australia and whether or not it was a possibility for me to transfer to their Australian branch. My career then took a couple of twists and turns, and I eventually landed a role with an Australian company that was just starting its Singapore office. So that Australian company is the one that eventually transferred me to Australia, and I'm still with them till this day. So again, if you're interested in what kind of visa I'm on, separate video in the description box below. In terms of relationships, I had to make the very difficult decision to let go of my then boyfriend of almost 3 years. Fundamentally, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the relationship, and he was, and I'm sure still is, a really, really nice guy. But me moving abroad became a really huge point of contention between the two of us, and at the end of the day, I made the choice to choose and prioritize me. Because I believe that we only have one life, and you should, as much as possible, prioritize yourself in all aspects. And if the person you meet is right for you, there is a very good chance that you wouldn't have to give up your dreams just to fit them into your life. I had to get really creative with my solutions. So back then there was no ChatGPT. I couldn't just go online and search which was the visa that was most suitable for a Singaporean trying to move to Australia. So I spent quite a large amount of time researching on which visas were suitable, and once I had sufficient information, I started to rank them according to which one I felt I had the highest probability of getting approved for. So I also had to think about which was the most efficient way for me to get to my destination. Once I landed this role with the Australian company, I knew that they were my best shot at getting moved overseas. So when I joined the company, I told myself that I was going to work so hard for them and get noticed by the right people, so that when time comes for me to ask them to transfer me, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to say no. And that's exactly what happened. So again, if you want to find out more about what visa I'm on, how I managed to convince them to transfer me, link is in the description box below. This is the third and final lesson that I learned over the 5 years, and it is arguably the most important one. And it is to learn to ask. Because if you're already putting in the hard work, how would people know that you need help if you don't ask questions and you don't ask them for help? A lot of times people underestimate the power of their network, and they think that by just working hard behind the scenes, taking on extra projects, people are going to start to notice them. But if you don't ever speak up, if you don't ever ask questions, if you don't ever put yourself in front of the right people, how would you get noticed? How would people know that you need help? How would people know that you want the help? So do the hard work, put in the effort, but let yourself be helped as well. And the only way you can get help is if you open your mouth and you ask for it. So that's exactly what I did. I worked hard, and 1.5 years into the role with the Australian company, I went straight to my Chief Revenue Officer, one of our leaders in the C-suite, and I asked him to transfer me to Australia, and pretty much almost immediately, it was approved. So after all my rambling, I guess the conclusion that I'm getting at is that I don't think the Singaporean dream is a scam at all. In fact, I think it's great for most Singaporeans because it helps you to achieve most life milestones by a certain age. But don't let the comfort of Singapore hold you back. If you've always been curious about the world and dreamt of something bigger, try it out. Take the risk. Life is worth exploring and living. Because at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen? Singapore is still going to be there for you if you ever decide to go home.